Welcome to Creators Cafe. I'm your host, Jessica Payne. I'm a performer, performance coach, and multi-hyphenate creator. I'm going to be bringing you conversations with some of my favorite creators where we talk about the sublime and the specifics of the creative journey. So grab a drink, get cozy. Let's go. My guest, Fern Madden, is a hair and makeup artist who lives in LA after getting her start in London and Australia. She has worked across beauty, fashion, film, and music, and she's known for her radiant and glowy makeup. Fern's work has been featured in publications like Elle, Harper's Bazaar, Marie Claire, Grazia, Frankie Magazine, OK Magazine, Rolling Stone, and Cosmopolitan. Fern was also the beauty editor for Tangent Magazine, where she covered cutting-edge global style. Fern regularly works with some of the biggest brands on their advertising, from industry giants like Amazon, Apple, and Nike to iconic brands like Savage Fenty, North Face, Free People, Hourglass Cosmetics, Dolce Vita, and Halston. She has also worked with so many celebrities: Bon Jovi, Dave Chappelle, Duran Duran, Zara Larsson, the B-52s, and so many more. She recently worked with Nicole Richie for the cover of Nylon magazine, and she was the key makeup designer for the Bulgari Cinemagia runway show, overseeing a team of 10 makeup artists. Fern has been a makeup designer to stage and theater productions, short films, TV commercials, music videos, and worked with some of Australia's elite TV networks. Fern is an incredible artist who specializes in allowing a model's natural beauty to shine from within, and I loved talking with her. Please enjoy my conversation with Fern Madden. Okay, Fern Madden, welcome to Creators Cafe. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
This is so appropriate because we met in a coffee shop.
We did.
Yeah. So Fern and I are friends through Bree, who was also on the podcast earlier this year.
We love Bree.
Yeah, she's so fantastic.
She's the best.
So what are you drinking today?
So today I'm drinking, at the moment I'm on a break from coffee, so I'm drinking Earl Grey tea with hot steamed soy milk. So it's kind of like a latte style, but it's tea.
Yeah.
So this is my guilty pleasure right now.
This
is me when I'm going crazy.
I was going to say, that's a pretty gentle guilty pleasure. You're doing just fine.
I know.
Yeah. Mine is a half-calf iced latte, so that's also my wild and crazy.
Nice. You're getting cray-cray today.
Exactly. Okay, so you do many things, but how do you think of yourself as a creator?
In terms of being a hair and makeup artist?
Yeah. So you are a hair and makeup artist professionally, and you were trained to do that professionally in the UK. So maybe just tell us about what drew you to that and what got you started on that path.
Okay. So since I was a little kid, I actually always thought I'd be a fashion designer, like do something with clothes. I'm an only child, and I when you're an only child, you tend to spend a lot of time by yourself, and not always, but
Yeah.
And I was like, this was back before the internet and stuff. So it wasn't like screens and all of those things. And so I used to do a lot of drawing. My dad's an artist, and I was always like sketching and drawing things. And I used to watch a lot of old black and white movies as well, of like, just like the old actresses like in the 30s and things with like, amazing clothes and like the turban on the head and just like these gowns, just being in the house, in their just like massive like house clothes, like
beautiful,
just gorgeous. And so I was really and I'm really a girly girl. So like since I was about, I don't know, 2 or 3, like I was always really into makeup. My mum says that I would put a full face, like she's got this funny story when she's like, you're always into your color and your outfits and makeup. She's like, you would like pair like a purple sweater with an orange skirt, and she's just like, and I'd think no, because I was obsessed with dressing myself from like a young age. And she's like, but then you would like get like a little pink purse and you put on some blue eyeshadow and it just looked great, so she was
gosh,
she always says that I knew from a really young age, like I just had this thing about color and style. And then with all the movies and stuff, I was just really obsessed with beautiful girls, beautiful women. So I was always drawing all these pictures of these like kind of princess girls in these beautiful dresses and things. So I assumed that I would go to school and do fashion design. I always thought I'd be a fashion designer and work in the fashion industry somehow. And then when I was about 17, I did high school in Australia, and there was an elective in high school, I think, like one afternoon a week you could go to college, like, and do like a bit of a course. So I did fashion design. And when I got there, I remember just like even from the first week, it was just so technical and boring. Like the fashion design, it was like, it wasn't like, I was like, what? I thought I'd be sitting here designing, but I wasn't at all. It was just like doing these like very kind of scientific color wheels and like, like it wasn't, I was kind of got a rude shock. I was like, oh no, this is not what I was envisaging. And then through my teens as well, I would always be, when going out with my friends and stuff, I would always do my friends' hair and makeup. And it felt really easy for me. Like it was just fun. And I knew I was good at it, but it was also just like super fun. And then I remember like a lightning bolt moment thinking to myself, oh, I could actually become a makeup artist, but for the fashion industry, so that I was in and around all the beautiful clothes and fashion and style, and that I then would get to like not have to be, mixing all these color wheels and doing all this technical stuff that was kind of really behind the scenes. I was like, oh, I would actually be in it then. And it would be like working with all these different clients, all these things. So so that's the thing that kind of kickstarted me thinking, changing my mind to makeup instead of fashion. And then, so I kind of always knew that's what I wanted to do. And then so it was always my plan to finish high school, move back to the UK where I was originally from, and like live in London and study to be a makeup artist. So I kind of did that when I was about 20, 21. Yeah. So I kind of just did it. And so at the beginning, like I was seeking advice from different people. And I know that one of his best friends, it's also English. One of the best friend's sister was a well-known hair and makeup artist in London. So I remember talking to my dad's best friend and him saying, I'll put you in touch with her. And one of the ways that you can become a makeup artist is actually to assist somebody and learn from the ground up on set. He's like, you can, and then I spoke to some other people too, and it's like, there's that, or else you can actually go and study and like kind of do it that way. And so I moved to the UK, and I remember I was working in retail, and it was like really busy. I was having to get 2 days off in a row. I would have to work 9 days on or something, like crazy shifts, crazy hours.
Wow.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
And so, but on my days off, I'd be so exhausted, and I'd be calling this makeup artist, Mandy was her name, and I'd be like, this was before cell phones and stuff. So I'd be like calling the landline and like leaving voice messages and stuff. And I remember when I finally got through to her, I think something was going on for her, and she's like, I'm so sorry, like I can't have an assistant right now. And so I was like, okay, that's decided then. And she was the only one that I knew. Yeah. And so I was just like, well, I'll go and study then. Yeah. So I kind of just like switched my mindset around that, and then I enrolled in a course to study hair and makeup at Westminster College in London. And so it kind of all went from there.
Wow, excellent. And I love that you talked about how even though you were in that retail position, it wound up being really good, because a lot of my listeners are actually kind of younger in their careers and are doing the thing on the way to the thing they actually hope to be doing. Yeah. So I really loved how positively you talked about your experience. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Okay, so that particular job, interestingly enough, it was very fortuitous. That actually was at Urban Outfitters, and it was the first European flagship store. So I think it was 1997 or 98. And there was an ad. This was like, as I said, this was before internet and stuff. So there was an ad in the newspaper. I was just applying for all different jobs, and I knew that I'd never been a server or did waitressing and stuff. I was like, that's not really my thing. But in Australia, like after high school, I'd had a retail job, so I was always comfortable with that. So that's what I was looking for in London. And there was an ad in the paper, and it was really nondescript. And it didn't say, like, you didn't know the brand or anything. It just said, looking for dynamic people of like all walks of life, this and that. I can't remember the exact wording, but I remember the ad, and it really stood out. And it just made you think, what is this?
Yeah.
You know, what it is, like a new company, you know, starting up in London. And so I went to the interview, and I now know that they interviewed, I think, like 1,000 or 2,000 people in like these massive group interviews of like 15 people. And in the end, and they did all these rounds of interviews, and in the end, they hired 60 of us to open up the store. And like we participated in, like, they were running behind with actually getting the whole, like the floor finished, like getting the place finished. So we ended up like carrying bricks and things. Like we worked there for about,
you built the store.
For about
Literally.
a month. We were like, actually, they kind of got us all like, we did all the, you know, some team building exercises and stuff. And they had us all like, yeah, the camaraderie side of it. They were like, okay, now you're on this, you're working on fixtures today. And like, you're like, we weren't exactly drilling, but we were like definitely helping to build up that store because they were running behind. And so that really created this lovely friendships between everyone. Everyone just got so close, you know? And so it was just really nice and really fun to be a part of. And I think that like everybody likens that experience to, like, everyone I know from those days. Everyone's like, it's like the ultimate college experience or something, because and they kind of say it's like the ultimate college experience, but with people that you 100% get on with, and like everyone.
Yeah.
And they really were looking for people that were like from all walks of life, all different fields, but like really driven and like really like a lot of artistic people, but just like all kinds, but just like very interested in what they were doing.
Yeah.
And really, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and also really nice people.
That's
like,
so
so I
important.
think that's why they interviewed so many people to get us like to come up with a small group in the end.
Yeah.
But of people that genuinely got along with each other super well. And so it was really, really good. It was really special because I'd moved from Australia to the UK. It took me about 3 months of trying to get any job.
Yes.
It was one of those things where I couldn't get an apartment until I got a job. I couldn't get a job until I had a fixed address apartment. It was, you know, it was just one of those kind of things.
Yes.
So it very much became family, you know, and I ended up living with 3 friends from work. We ended up getting a place together and worked there for 2 years. And it was just, yeah, we were all workaholics. It was kind of like, it was because they needed us to work a lot.
Yeah.
So we kind of,
So you did.
it was a good experience. And then to this day, crazily, like 3 of those people now live in the States that were English from that job. And my New York bestie, Queen Eileen, I met her at the Urban Job, and she was there on an exchange program in London for 6 months or something. We met and just like we've been great friends ever since. And yeah, just met. And then a lot of my UK friends that I have to this day are all through that job. So it was, and they've all gone on to just do really interesting things, of like all kinds of things. But yeah, it was a really, because I didn't go to like do the college experience. I went to makeup school, but yeah, so it was kind of like that.
So then what was the next step that took you from combining the makeup school and the special experience there? Where did you start the career that you're on now?
Okay, so I went to makeup school, and it was one of those the situation, you're learning hair and makeup and things, but usually like a pretty clear path to get out in the industry is to be doing test shoots and like, you know, free shoots with photographers that you know, and like fashion stylists and like you know, I did hair and makeup, but sometimes you'd want to specialize in one. So you've got someone really strong in hair, someone strong in makeup, and it's just, you know, it's a good dynamic having everyone focusing on the one thing. So at the beginning, I was living in East London in Bethnal Green, which is near Shoreditch, which is at the time was still really up and coming. But it's very, very artsy around there, very fashionable, really artsy, great bars and clubs and all those things. So I was living around there and met, you know, a lot of really interesting people just through going out, including photographers and, you know, stylists and all that. So I kind of, I remember just started doing, and also I think one of my roommates at the time, one of their friends was a now really successful photographer actually. And he was assisting, I think, David Bailey, like a really famous UK photographer. And so his style of photography was really, really good. So I remember my first few shoots that I did were with him and were really beautiful pictures. And it was kind of like, you know, just getting all different people together. I remember one of my roommate's friends modeled in one of the shoots because then she ended up modeling and she was gorgeous. So it was very much like, starting off like that. And that's kind of how the career goes for the first few years, definitely is like just trying to just be working at the craft as much as you can.
Yeah. And finding
usually free.
Yeah, exactly. And finding the people and your tribe and your style.
I was going to say
aesthetic
that.
Is so important.
Yes.
So what do you think of as your aesthetic? Because when I look at your work, there's definitely, I think it's beautiful and I think it's very unified for all of the different places that you work with.
Oh,
your style comes across as really luminous and fresh and beautiful and feminine and light and radiant are the words that come to mind.
That makes me so happy because that's what I'm about.
Oh, good. Well, and it's just so beautiful to get to see a portfolio of all of your work together.
Yeah.
So, you know, any day you're just doing your thing, but then when you put it all together, you get to see kind of the through line and the heart of what you do. So how did you come to that aesthetic and what part of that is kind of on purpose or what is just you?
Okay. Thank you. I love those compliments. So I think I was always like the way I am with my own like hair and makeup, I've always been, I want to say always been less is more, but I did go through a period for like years of wearing bright red lipstick every day, you know, and I love red lipstick, but I've always been about showing the inner beauty, you know, like everybody's inner beauty and like really showing the skin and really like not just, it kind of makes me feel sick that the type of makeup that can be around there where it's like painting on a full mask on the face. And I've just never ever liked that.
Yeah.
So I always kind of was, I think from the word go, I was on the fresh side of just wanting like fresh, glowy, not even necessarily the dewy, glowy look that's so popular now, even though that was always my favorite. It wasn't even thinking in those terms, but it was more just like less is more and just showing the individual's inner beauty, you know? So that's always been my favorite. And then I think also with pops of color as well, you know? So like, and I remember, so I first off, I was doing a lot of work in London. Like I studied and then I was working with makeup in London, like, you know, doing all the shoots and those things. But then about a year into that, I actually moved back to Australia. So then it was kind of starting at the beginning again of finding my contacts there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really a planned move. I was just going to pop back for 6 months and it ended up being that I was there for 12 years, you know?
Oh,
so,
okay. Surprise. Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah.
So, and then when I was in Australia, so the aesthetic in London has always been like the cool girl aesthetic of just, you know, most British people have gorgeous skin because the sun exposure isn't such a...
That's so true. They're naturally moisturized and covered.
They are. They actually
wow.
it's so true.
I never even
my
thought
dad
about
always
that.
says that my grandma, she was an old Irish woman, but she had and I remember the softest skin at age 90, like, and not even that many lines on her face because the sun exposure is like, they don't get as much sun. But yeah, the London vibe is always been that. I mean, it's like there's so many different styles of fashion and in makeup, and anything goes.
Yeah.
But also it's very much been that kind of just flawless skin. But I don't think it's like caked on skin. It's just like really, really nice, just like fresh with like a bright red lip or a dark red lip or a liquid liner. Like very much the Kate Moss, that kind of vibe of just the way she does her makeup. Like her skin's always gorgeous, but it's not like you can see all this crazy contouring or too much blush, or she's always very much about just clean. And like her in the 90s, she just looked amazing. Like she wasn't really wearing much, but then she would just do a pop of a lip or a little liquid line. And I think, so that's always been very much my style. And then going back to Australia, Australian makeup artists and the Australian style is really beautiful in the more bronzy, natural way. So sun-kissed, but it's also, they're not heavy with makeup there either.
Yeah.
So I very much like when I started learning more and more there and just creating my style more, it was very much like I assisted a makeup artist once, for a little while earlier on, because another thing that you do in your career is assist somebody when you're starting out, because that's really helpful for learning all these little tips and tricks, but also meeting the photographer's assistants and the stylist assistants and models who are just like kind of starting out, and then you kind of get all like your connections and like, hey, should we do a free test shoot on the weekend or something, or for our portfolio? So assisting is a really important bit of the journey. So I made sure I assisted makeup artists that like, I would look in magazines and specifically looking for ones that just did really fresh, natural skin. And then you contact the agencies and are like, hey, does so-and-so, I'm available to assist.
I wouldn't have even thought of that. That's brilliant. That's so smart. Okay.
Yeah, I actually had a graphics designer friend at the time create a PDF for me of like my work, like shoots that I'd done, and made it look all pretty, and like a little like CV bit. And then I used to email that through to the agencies as well. So they could see kind of like what I was about, even though I was a baby makeup artist.
Well, you just created your own work and your own portfolio, and then found the people that were the right fit for it. That's brilliant.
Yeah. So, that's exactly it. And then, a couple of makeup artists I assisted were like really like my exact kind of style of just fresh skin, like even just no foundation, just some concealer where needed, and just, just some pretty lashes and a little bit of this, little bit of that, but like just trying to just keep as natural as possible. So I assisted a couple of those makeup artists, and from that, and it's the beachy. So then living in Australia, everyone's doing beach shoots and it's fresh and natural, and I kind of then developed that into my style as well, of being kind of like the natural kind of dewy, fresh, seeing the freckles, and then sometimes adding a pop of lip color or something on the eye. But and I think that probably if I'd stayed living in London, I might not have discovered that side of it as much.
That's oddly a great fit for LA, is the blend of
because it's got
cool and beachy is really pretty great. What do you feel like you would describe the LA style as from the outside?
If you didn't like, you mean the style on set of makeup?
Yes. In the way that LA is kind of the cool, or the look was cool girl, and the Australia was beachy bronze.
So LA's kind of, I think it can be like, look, Instagram makeup artists these days, like all these Insta famous makeup artists that do this heavy makeup and very kind of plastic kind of vibe. I think there's a bit of a misconception about LA that people like the makeup heavy here.
Yeah.
Because any job on set I get asked to do, it's always really like, we want it glowy, natural, little peachy on the cheeks, like just fresh. And it's also because that's my particular style. So then I'm asked to do that.
Yeah.
But I hardly ever, like, even in Australia, the way it was so natural, the makeup was so natural, I would, like, 9 times out of 10 always apply little individual lashes. And like it was natural so that you couldn't tell there was some extra lashes on there. And then I came to be working in LA, and I remember the first time I was on set, I was asked to take off these little individual lashes, even though you couldn't, to the naked eye, you couldn't really see them, because it was like, no, we just want like just mascara, as if the model's done it herself, you know?
Wow, really natural.
Yes,
wow,
really.
That's surprising.
Yeah.
Okay.
But saying that, I have other friends, other makeup artist friends, that say that they always use their lashes on the job. So I think, and I see that their styles, like, there's more makeup going on to the, you know, to the concept, to the shoot. So I think LA is like different to New York, like where New York is really, seems like really ultra natural, like really just really pared down with makeup. LA, there's definitely more makeup going on and more color and tone. But I think that it's kind of like a mix of both, of kind of, you can have your heavier looks, kind of leaning towards the more like the Insta.
Yeah, exactly.
The Insta famous, the Instagram kind of vibe, but then it's also got the really natural, fresh going on. I'm always chatting to the models, and like that they're flying all over the place. Like yesterday's model had the night before flown back from London, and she's American but had been living in London for 2 years. And I was saying to her, oh, so like, how is it on set there? I always ask them that, like what it's like to work there now, because I haven't worked in London for years.
Yeah.
And they usually say it's kind of on par with LA.
Okay.
Like what's kind of wanted. Like it's maybe a little bit heavier.
Okay.
But it's kind of on par with the LA style now.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if things are becoming more similar because of Instagram. And
I actually think
there's
so.
more of a worldwide style of what's in fashion.
I actually think so. And I think that like Australia always, I don't know about now, but it also always used to like lean to Europe, like British Vogue, French Vogue, and that kind of style as the like kind of the desired fashion aesthetic. And also America like in clothing, but I think in makeup, the European, like Frenchy chic was always the vibe.
Yeah.
A mix of Frenchy chic and then the beachy fresh. And I think that, probably through social media as well, like the Frenchy chic cool girl, that's cool everywhere now.
Yeah.
So I think that you're probably right. That
it's so interesting to just watch the regional trends become more integrated in just kind of what pops, and it gets integrated into this worldwide fashion.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Are you ready to be confident and comfortable in front of a camera? Well, my name is Jessica Payne, and I would love to help you. I'm an actor, acting coach, and the host of the Creators Cafe video podcast. I have helped thousands of people to learn the skills of a Hollywood actor to be more comfortable in their body, voice, and mindset whenever you press record. So if you're an entrepreneur, a business person who needs to be in front of the camera, or you want to get into digital content creation, I would love to offer you one-on-one on-camera performance coaching so that you feel like when you press record, you can be your best self. Check out the link below for more details, and I can't wait to work with you. Let's have fun together. So you studied hair and makeup, and you built this portfolio, and you found your style and your aesthetic. And now that you're in LA, you've worked with incredible brands, and so you work in the entertainment industry, but also with a lot of advertising and editorial shoots. Yes. So you have people who are in magazines, and your work is on billboards, and it's all over. Yeah. What does that look like in a year? What kind of shoots are you doing, and what kind of brands are you working with, and how does that work? Okay, so I mainly work like
in LA, there's a lot of e-commerce, you know, like a lot of like fashion, makeup, beauty brand, advertising. E-commerce is like online, like say if you're going to be like Old Navy or something, you want to buy a pair of jeans and you're going to be, you know, e-com is like front, back, side, like the perfect view of the jeans. And then the model will do like a little bit of an editorial kind of positioning. So, you know, they look a little bit extra cool. They might throw some sunglasses on them for that shot or something like that. But, you know, so e-commerce, that's the vibe of that. And LA is, whereas like, you know, the difference between like LA and New York, for instance, New York is a lot more editorial.
And for somebody that doesn't know, editorials, like if you opened a fashion magazine, those are the pictures you see, those are editorial.
Yes.
And
Editorial,
if you
but
went
also
online and you were looking at that same brand to actually buy it, then you're seeing the e-commerce of it.
correct. But then also it's kind of confusing because editorial also like it's interesting because the phrase editorial is also used in so sometimes I'll do an e-commerce shoot, and for some of the brands they're advertising, like when they do a more of an advertising which might be on billboards, is definitely going to be on ads on Instagram and those kind of things, they now tend to call that an editorial shoot because it's the cooler stylized editorial vibe. So they kind of either call that editorial or advertising, but it is advertising. So, but yeah, in general, like editorial, old school editorial is magazine shoots.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if that's super confusing because it's confusing for us as well when they started like changing the terminology around a bit.
I have multiple friends who work either for the brands or as actor models that kind of do all of the different things.
Yes.
And I know it used to be a little more siloed, that someone who was an editorial model was that, and that was very different than the person who was going to go try the clothes on. But now a lot of times it's the same
because of social,
people are doing all of the same things.
Yes, and I think that it's like what you were saying before about social media, like that kind of changing things up a bit. I think it's because of that as well.
Okay.
So in LA, the bread and butter here, apart from the film and TV industry, in fashion and advertising, there's a lot of e-commerce.
Okay.
So much e-commerce. So we're always going to be doing, you know, and so to give you an idea, like for e-commerce shoots, our rates are going to be a bit lower. Or just like a mid-range. And then if you're doing the advertising shoots, your rates are normally going to be like double that.
Oh, okay.
Double or triple that because it's because of the usage of the advertising shoot as well. So usually like a typical year and month for us in my kind of industry would be, you know, all like you have a number of brands that you'll do the e-commerce for. And a lot of times they're repeat clients, sometimes they're brand new clients that you might work with once or twice a year. But usually with the e-commerce brands, they like to trial and book different hair and makeup artists for different aesthetics that they might have as well, depending on what they're doing on that shoot. But usually with e-commerce, brands really like to use the same people over again, because a lot about it as well is that you all get along really well together, and that you can do a really good job and you're like easy to deal with, but don't ever do too much, you know, don't ever get a bit crazy. You know, brands like to know that, like, to kind of get to know you and know that like they can just, you know, the creative director might not be there that day, but they know that the team's got it and they know the aesthetic, they know the vibe already. So, you know, you kind of so they love to have teams together.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Well, and first of all, you're getting the job because your aesthetic is a match for the brand.
Yes.
And then you're proving that you're easy to work with. You get the creative brief.
Yeah. And everyone works together really well. And it's kind of, so I think that that's why with a lot of e-commerce shoot, brands like to use, they'll have a handful of their favorites, including photographers, fashion stylists, hair and makeup. and because obviously we're all doing advertising campaign work as well. And we might be doing, some people spill into like they're doing, they work in fashion advertising, but they might do some TV work as well. Or they might do, so we're not always, it's not a given that we're going to be available when they're wanting to shoot. So, they always have a handful of people on their roster, I guess. But so e-com is, we do a lot of that. And then we'll also do our advertising kind of stuff. And that can be for, like billboard campaigns, that comes out as editorial in magazines, on Instagram. And so in terms of like the ad jobs, they don't shoot as often. So like with the e-com, they shoot a lot because there's like, when you think about it, there's just, think of any brand. Like I used to work for 5-6 years with Lucky Brand all the time. I'd be with them every week. And there's so many, like they sell shoes, they sell jewelry, they're not just the jeans, they're everything. And they're all the t-shirts, and they'll be like, there's so much content to get shot. We used to do at the beginning, it was 4 days a week. Just like boom, boom, boom.
It's just a day job.
It's exactly. It's like that.
That's so funny.
Yeah, because there's so much content.
Yeah.
Like there's so many things, and you're like, how on earth? Because brands need to, it's seasonal. So they're, like they're doing, the spring, the summer, the fall, the winter. But it's also, they also need to come up with to be, what's the word? Be like up with the latest, like I'm tongue-tied right now.
No, so brands are seasonal, but they also need to have that
trend,
fresh and the trend.
Yes.
And be responding to what's going on in the world style.
Exactly.
And so it's not like you shoot this once and then you're done.
They have so many designers working for them.
Wow.
There'll be a lead designer for the brand, and then they'll have designers underneath them, and they're just like, they're designing constantly.
Yeah.
So like all these brands that you work for, even if it might seem simple, like, in terms of, it's a denim brand, like how many jeans do you really need to design in a year? Well, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Because it's all the different styles, all the different like, because it's seasonal, it's like some fabrics heavier, lighter denim, like just all of that stuff. So, so you're doing a lot of those, and then you've got so most artists, I think, like me, will have a lot of e-com brands that they work with. They tend to shoot, I mean, it just depends on the brand, but sometimes they're like 1 day a week. I used to work a lot with BCBG Max Azria, and I used to do their e-commerce, and I used to do their advertising as well, the editorial advertising. And they had like BCBG Max Azria, BCBG Generation. Then they had the girls, which was for like the kids. And then they had a partnership with Cosabella Lingerie. So it was like, there was a lot, like, so every single week on a Thursday, I knew that I had BCBG, unless something else was in the mix of my other advertising clients that was pre-booked. But I would do them every Thursday, and like, for instance, with the Lucky Brands, or with the someone else, that would be maybe like every Tuesday, or like the days can vary. So you've got your e-commerce in place, and then you've got the advertising jobs. Usually they're kind of normally around 4 times a year. So like every couple of months you'll have but even with BCBG, I would then do their advertising as well. So that would be every 6 weeks, maybe they would do something in the realm of the editorials. And that's when you're on location, either in a studio, in studio, or outside on location somewhere. And that's more like, the creative shots.
Yeah.
And but your other advertising clients, like I do a mix of fashion brands, skincare brands, makeup brands. So I would do, for instance, Physicians Formula and Wet n Wild Cosmetics. They were owned by, under the banner of the same company. So with them, I would shoot their commercials. So you would be like, 4 days, like Physicians Formula, for instance, they'll be shooting different products. And then I would, So every couple of months there would be a shoot of like 4 days in a row of just like, yeah. And I'd need, a few assistants each day for that. It was really, really hectic. A lot of models, a lot of product to get shot. There was the commercials, and then I'd be doing the advertising stills for that. And then in between, and the same with Wet and Wild, it was that same kind of thing. And then in between, like, so maybe that was like 3-4 times a year. And then in between, they would have like smaller shoots, which were more similar to the e-commerce, where there would be shooting in usually a smaller studio or their head office, and it would be things for social media and, just like, or just like pickup shots and things. And now I work a lot with Hourglass Cosmetics, and it's a similar thing. It's like you do your bigger ones and your littler ones. So brands like that. But yeah, like in terms of the consistency of it, the ad jobs are normally,
Well, and
around 4
I
times
love
a year.
seeing how different kinds of artists make a living doing something artistic. Is such an interesting thing for all of us to navigate. But to just see that you do have like a real blend of working with different brands and working at different levels, and sometimes it seems like the e-commerce is the steady job, and then the advertising at the higher levels and with the bigger exposure is maybe a little more artistic or fun or
and
higher pressure too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's great to see that whole blend.
It definitely, it definitely is. And it's kind of like, it's very, I think as makeup artists, we have to have kind of feels like eyes in the back of our head as well, because there's so much going on at any given time, especially with the higher pressure ad jobs.
I'm sure.
It's kind of you're making sure you're keeping the client happy and the model or the talent happy, and you're keeping track of your assistants, and you're like making sure the photographer's happy, and the pressure can be big.
I'm sure. If I was your model on a shoot and I walked in, what are the kinds of things that you would do in a standard day that somebody might not think of or know of? Like how do you go about what you do?
Okay, so in terms of makeup, and because I love really nice skincare and really nice, to keep the skin as fresh as possible. I'm definitely known, like my favorite thing is just beautiful, dewy, glowy skin, not oily, dewy, but just like really as if you've just had 12 hours sleep and you've just drank, 3 gallons of water, like
sounds good.
That's basically the desired aesthetic, so you kind of, so that's my favorite vibe. And usually I'll be booked to give the client and give the models that look.
Yeah.
So usually, like always, a lot of moisturizer. So just cleansing the skin really well. Like always asking, like it's a given, but you always want to know that the model or the talent, if they have any skin sensitivities, allergies to anything, because if they did and you accidentally use something of yours on set, and then it's like they can get react and get red, and especially if you're using motion instead of stills.
Sure.
It's like it's really hard to if somebody's having some kind of a reaction, so that's always like paramount. Like, that's really important. But then my trick is I like to really, really over moisturize the skin, just like get the skin prepped at the beginning. And then I'll start in on doing the hair. So usually if I'm doing some jobs, I'm makeup only, and other jobs I'm hair and makeup. Usually in e-commerce, it's just we're asked to be a combo artist and do both. But with the advertising jobs, usually we get to specialize in one. And my favorite's always going to be makeup, because I love that. So then usually I like start in on the hair. I'll style the hair. And you kind of let say if I'm putting some waves in the hair or whatever, you'll create the curls or the waves or whatever you're doing, pops a little pin at the side of the hair, just so that the hair can cool down, calm down, and just kind of naturally relax by the time that, like usually makeup takes 45 minutes, hair takes 45 minutes. Sometimes we do get really pushed to rush a lot quicker, but if you've got that amount of time to spend on both, it pretty much sets you up for the day of not really having to do that many touch-ups because you've been able to be really thorough.
Yeah.
So it's the same with hair. You kind of need a good basis at the beginning of getting some really good product into the hair, depending on what the model or the client's natural hair likes. You know, some people it's like, oh, don't use this on my hair. So you always want to ask them, you know, how their hair reacts to things as well. But if you kind of set up everything to go at the beginning of the day hair-wise and get products in there, get stuff blow dried in, moisturized, and then you create, you know, your look that you're doing, you really don't need to touch it up. It's like a stitch in time saves 9. That energy. It's like you don't have
really
to
take the time.
Yeah, really take the time. And so that's sitting there, and then you'll like go in on, you know, start on makeup once the skin's just really nice and prepped. And then I'll always, just add, I think extra moisture is always key
Okay.
to the makeup.
Do you have any recommendations for specifically for like moisturizer, concealer, or any kind of hair products that make somebody just look like not what you would necessarily use at home every day, but something that's like a good, if somebody's prepping themselves for self-tapes or is on camera a lot or something that reads right on camera?
Yeah. Well, definitely for camera, if you discover anyway, it's like it's not good to be shiny on the camera.
Right.
So, you know, it's like certain skincare, definitely some moisturizers are way too shiny and thick and dewy.
Yeah.
Same as with foundations and concealers and things like that. But so with bearing that in mind, usually with the skincare that I use, I like to just really keep it simple, like use really moisturizing stuff, but keep it simple. I really love the CeraVe. There's a moisturizer that they do. I'm just trying to think of exactly what it is. It's the PM one. There's only the day and the night.
Okay.
And it's oil-free. So the good thing about that is no one's skin's going to break out. It's like pH balanced.
Yeah. Okay.
Oil-free. Doesn't clog up the pores, but it also it's really moisturizing and soaks really well into the skin. So it gives it a lot of moisture without being shiny.
That's great.
That's like hands down.
That's hard to find that line.
It is.
Yeah.
And like depending on what the look is, like say for in fashion, if they want it really dewy, then you can go in there and add other moisturizers on top or other products. But that one is just one, I actually use it myself at home.
Oh, beautiful. Your skin's amazing.
Thank you so much. But you'd be surprised. My skin actually breaks out if I use anything too active on it.
Okay.
So, you know, a lot of these brands are like, oh, we're vegan, natural, clean. And then I'll try the product and for whatever reason, there's too many active ingredients or too many really natural plants. But no, seriously.
Yeah, no, because it's just so aggressively natural that it's reacting to your face. Wow,
honestly.
that's interesting. Okay.
And a lot of models will say that too. So it's the kind of thing people don't tell you. And also, I've worked with a lot of skincare brands, and some of those ones that are really natural, beautiful product. But me personally, I can react. So I'm aware, like if I've had a reaction to something, I make sure not to use that in my kit because you would just never want anyone else to react. And so that CeraVe moisturizer, CeraVe PM, I think it's got hyaluronic acid in it, which is a really good moisturizer.
I'll link to it in the show notes.
It's honestly a $15 moisturizer that's excellent.
Great.
So for instance, something like that, I will always use that regardless of if it's going to be motion that's getting filmed, like self-tape stuff or commercials, or if it's going to be stills. That's one of my favorite products for sure. And then concealer. At the moment, I've been absolutely loving the Milk Makeup Concealer. I'm just trying to think of the exact name of it. I think
I can put everything in the show notes.
Okay,
too.
I think it's just the one concealer they do.
Yeah.
In fact, I feel very lucky. I was shooting at Milk Studios yesterday. So the Milk makeup products are actually made by the people that have Milk Studios, which is a photography studios, and they created these products. And the products are really, really good.
Oh, that's great.
And we were shooting there yesterday, actually, and we were lucky enough to go down to the makeup PR room with all the products downstairs. And so myself and I was working with one of my favorite brands, Honey Love. They're a shapewear brand that I love the brand, but I love everybody
Oh,
in the brand. And so
yeah.
we're all really close. It's really nice, all girls.
Yeah.
So we all went down, and Milk was nice enough to just give us goodie bags of like, pick whatever you want. And I genuinely was saying to them, you know how like obsessed I am with your concealer? And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. And another brand I work a lot with, the North Face,
Mhm.
and they're they're a athletics brand, and they very much are very natural. Like, so even in their e-com, they don't like it to look like the models have anything on the face, and they actually like you to not really use much on because they want it to be realistic.
Yeah.
But with the guys and the girls, a lot of times with the guys, they're not sure what to use on their skin, and they often like say, oh, I love this concealer that you've used on me, or the makeup, because this Milk concealer is really good. The formula is so kind of gentle and soft that you can use it to conceal your under eyes and areas of redness, but you can also use it on the rest of the face. It's slightly dewy, so it's not matte and cakey.
Yeah.
And it can actually be used as a full face foundation as well, but like with a little sponge, do it very lightly, especially on a guy's skin.
Yeah.
You won't even know that there's anything on there.
Perfect.
Because their color tones
Yeah.
are really, really good as well. So stuff like that, like I'm always singing the praises of that.
Okay,
And
perfect.
yeah, I've given those details to a couple of the male models who do acting, act as well, and
right.
have specifically asked me for self-tapes of like, I love like, what shade have you used on me?
Yeah.
Doesn't look like I've got anything on. So yeah, I've been able to share that with them.
Perfect. Well, and that leads me to talk about what you did in Australia, where you were a mentor for a show. So you had worked in the music industry, and you were a mentor for a show that's kind of like an American Idol style show here. And so you got to work with these up and coming music artists to help them get camera ready, which I find so fascinating. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I loved that position so much. So in Australia, I worked a lot in the music industry. I worked a lot with like Warner Music, which is an Australian label, Warner, Universal, Sony, and another Australian record label called Mushroom Music. And they ran a music competition, an annual music competition, which was for more like Americana country music, because there's a big country scene in Australia as well. But the vibe of it was kind of like it was like an idol kind of thing. So they would travel all around Australia to all the little country towns, and everyone from that town would have a heat and, like make it into the next round. And then they hired myself and a wardrobe stylist. We did this for about 3 years running, I think. They will hire us to come in on the semifinals, and then it followed through until the finals. The semifinals was probably like, that was when everyone from their towns had all won their heat. So then there would be maybe 100 musicians. And so that was pretty much like 3 months before the finals. So then we would kind of be up on the stage, and we would be showing them all examples of, musicians, male and female. It was all about knowing your persona, like, knowing your look. So with the fashion stylist, like there would be like, okay, like what is your fashion style? Who's an idol of yours that you like to dress like? Really kind of think about that and think of your stage presence and how you want to come across. And then with me, it would be the same thing, but for hair and makeup. So the fashion stylist and I would both separately have all these examples of musicians, but a lot of times we pick them from the country music kind of sector, because that's what this competition was about. So like for the men, like Keith Urban and like Willie Nelson, and like, I think I had, John Bon Jovi on there as well, like, but specifically men that have a very strong like look,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
like
And the look matches the persona.
yes,
I think that's what's so
yes,
powerful.
exactly. And it's a whole thing of like you don't just think of like with Keith Urban, for instance, you know, he's got his whole kind of like vibe going on that's kind of very Nashville, but his hair, like I would always show them examples of like him through the last 20 years. His hair has always been the same version of these highlights that he's got and a
Yeah.
similar kind of a style. And he likes a little bit of facial hair and a little bit, you know. And so with the women, it would be obviously like Dolly Parton, and it's like, you know, your Taylor Swift and your different, you know. And so with all of the contestants, this was kind of just to really show you like, do you have somebody, a look that you aspire to be on stage and that like that feels very you, but someone that you've always looked up to, for instance, in the
Yeah.
industry.
That's perfect.
And do you know how to do your hair and your makeup similar to that? So what would happen is with the semifinals, I would get to be one-on-one with each contestant.
Oh, wow.
And I would be, you know, so first off, I would come and we would do the talk with them. They were it was a boot camp. So 3 days that they had so much information. They would fly from all over Australia to be like, you know, very much like Idol, put up in a hotel, being like in a conference room, having all these people on stage talking to them and just, yeah, getting inspiration about all these things. So that was the beginning. And then we would urge them to really go home and think about like, put some thought into like, you know, what they want to look like, who they want to look like. Sometimes they might not want to do much. And it was always just like, well, absolutely, there's absolutely no pressure whatsoever if you don't want to, you know. But 9 times out of 10, and I loved this, the guys were the ones that would like come up to me after the initial talk going, okay, do you have any recommendations of like, what can I go out and buy before the semifinals so I'm prepared? And it was always so heartwarming to see the guys like that. And these are like country boys who like work on farms a lot of times, you know. It's just like you wouldn't think.
Yeah.
But they actually, that was, I think us having that conversation with them gave them, you know, like the whole, all of them just kind of gave them kind of like an in to be like, okay, I can go and ask her like all these questions and like be educated on that stuff. So then I think that from memory, I think that then the semifinals would be a couple of weeks later or maybe a month later, and usually they had some kind of an idea what they were thinking. A lot of times the guys had thought about it and had gotten their hair cut a certain way to kind of emanate the style that they're looking at. And then I would, so on the semifinals, I would like, you know, they could come with like pictures of maybe what they wanted, and then like, you know, then the fashion stylist has gone through all the outfits and everything with them, and they've, you know, they've got everything, and it all comes together with me coming in there and being like, okay, let's do exactly with hair and makeup what's gonna like finish off this look perfectly and what you're comfortable with and what you like, and also like making sure that they're not shiny for being on the stage.
Yeah.
Because that semifinal, there was tons of people, you know, like there was a huge audience. It was always in like a big auditorium. So we'll go through that stage, and then from that there'll be a select group of like, I think 30 would then go on to do the finals, which was maybe in 2 months from there or whatever. So it's like it was a whole journey with them. I always remember this. There's a couple of the contestants that really stand out. One of whom, Imogen Clark, is to this day, she's now moved to Nashville. She's so amazing. I've known her since, and I know her mom and dad since she was 16. I think she's about 28 now. And she's like, her style of music is evolved through the years. After I worked with her on those competitions, I then would be doing her album covers and her music videos and stuff. And then, you know, I've been living in LA nearly 7 years. So sometimes she would be, she's signed with Universal Music. So then she would come to like LA and I think Nashville as well, and be like doing writing sessions and with other artists and musicians, and then, you know, performing and stuff while she's here. So through the years, I've had the chance to be a friend of hers and to like follow her progression through her career. I'm so excited for her because she's like, just this year's like finally moved to Nashville, which was her dream. It's like, it's all good. And I saw her a few weeks ago at Hotel Cafe, a performance.
Oh,
Love
wow.
Hotel Cafe. It was just so nice to see her. But it's,
Wow.
so she's amazing. She's amazing. And I remember she didn't need a lot of help. She already had like so stylish. But it was just kind of, you know, like, okay, I'll do your hair, your makeup like this. But there was another one of the female contestants who I always loved as well. And I've spent time with her in the States as well. And she, at the time, I think she was about 14. And she actually cried with me because she was that nervous that she'd had previously a makeup artist on one of the shows, be so nasty to her. And like, I think even just she was just like, wouldn't let her move her face and was like yelling at her. And like, basically she had PTSD from this nasty makeup artist who just wasn't aware of the fact that she was 14 years old.
Oh my
or even
gosh.
younger at the time.
Yeah.
And she wasn't like, you know, at that age, it's like hard to stand up for yourself, you know, and then
Yes.
somebody's mean and bitchy and just being like,
Yeah.
you know, I think something had happened, like they pulled her, it wasn't pulling the hair, it was something to do with eyeliner. Something had slipped and something had gone into her eye. You know, it's like so she
Yeah.
had full on, and so she was really nervous at the beginning of me doing her makeup. And she's like, because she'd had that bad experience, she didn't like much makeup on her. And because obviously I'm so friendly, and I'm just like, no, we can do as little as much. And that's what I would always say to them. We can do as little or as much as you want. Like, I'm not trying to do anything that you don't want me to do, you know?
Yeah.
And then she then fully trusted me. And like but she actually cried of like, and I remember her like giving me the biggest hug of like tears of happiness of just being, thank you so much for being nice to me. And you've changed my perceptions of, you know, of putting makeup on and like the industry and how people are. And so
that's so beautiful.
it was really like, and a lot of them were younger, so it was a really nice, really, really lovely. It was my favorite thing. It was my favorite job to do, of kind of have that hand in helping someone kind of grow in their confidence as well through just like little tips and tricks. You know?
That's so amazing. I'm so glad you could be there to help mentor them.
Yeah, it was honestly, it was like, I'd love if that existed, you know, if that company was here, I'd love to be still doing it. It was just,
what was the name of that
loveliest
show or the program?
The program was Telstra Road to Discovery. And Telstra is a telephone company in Australia. So it was sponsored by Telstra.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
That's so neat. Okay. So I ask all of my guests for a creator's challenge.
Yeah.
And I think it would be really neat if we did something that was related to that.
Okay.
So what would your challenge to my guests be?
Okay. So I would say, I think something like, really have a look, especially maybe for people who they're not so hair and makeup savvy, or, you know, like, especially if they're a performer or, you know, going to be on camera, to kind of, just like have a really, maybe a little bit of like what I was mentoring on, of like, actually have a think of like, since you're a little kid, maybe like who inspired you and what kind of looks in terms of like clothing and hair and makeup, hairstyles, makeup, and maybe like musicians or actors that you've naturally gravitated towards. Like, you know, what's the common thread there of like what you're attracted to.
Yeah.
And if you haven't, if you're not someone who's used to even trying to emanate that, maybe just give it a quick go.
Yeah.
In like 10 minutes, kind of just scroll through your phone and be like first off, have a think about like, what do I like aesthetically, and what kind of vibe and look. Scroll through and just maybe screenshot some pictures on Google Images or something of like, of a, you know, an actor, an artist, and be like, okay, what have I got in my wardrobe right now that I could be like, you know, just like, okay, this guy, you know, like this artist wears a lot of checkered shirts and, you know, a jean and a boot and a, you know, like, and his hair was kind of a bit slicked back, you know, for instance,
Yeah.
someone like Elvis, like, you know, some people might want to do like, okay,
That
the
kind of
young
feel.
Elvis, it's like,
Yeah.
have you got any hair gel, you know, for the girl, you
Yeah.
know, and it's just like, and a comb, and just kind of like look at the picture and kind of just think like, what does my hair look like right now? Like, to everybody, you know, it's just like
Mhm.
whatever the reference is like, is my hair long enough or short enough to do this kind of style?
Yeah.
And just kind of give that a go, and just kind of like really look at the picture and the subject, and be
Yeah.
like, okay, what does it look like they've got on their face makeup wise? You know, it's like,
Mhm.
is it going to be a strong red lip, or is it going to be a smoky eye, or is it
Mhm.
going to be a guy that's got, you know, his facial hair, or, you know, a person, like a personality who's got a
Yeah.
specific kind of vibe for the facial hair? It's like, can we just quickly go and like give that a quick little shave into
Yeah.
that shape, and like then wearing the hair a slightly different way, would that suddenly like change your look into being more like that
Yeah.
person and that reference, and how quick and easy it could be as well?
Yeah, so style icons. Just
Yeah.
find who
And
you're
just like,
attracted
yeah, and
to
it could be
and how
multiple.
can you
Yeah.
emulate the pieces of that you're
Because you've
attracted to.
probably, if you're attracted to that already, you've probably got parts of that in your
Yeah,
wardrobe
that's
already.
smart, right? You're
You
probably
know?
subconsciously pulling pieces
Subconsciously.
of that in anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. I
Yeah.
love it so
And
much.
that's really quick.
Yes.
And that's just kind of a fun little thing. And that
Yeah.
probably would also probably get the ball rolling, and then you might actually be like, oh, this is actually really cool. Now I'm gonna like start to like get more pieces like that, or, you
Yeah.
know, yeah.
That's perfect.
Think
It's
of
like a
it,
good
yeah.
catalyst to
Yeah, a
defining your
catalyst.
style.
Yeah, because so many
Yeah.
times, like so many people, it's like we're so busy with the work portion of our trade, and we're just like so
Yeah.
busy and just like rushing around, and like someone like me, it's like, it's even before I go to, you know, work in the mornings, I'm just like specifically with new clients who I haven't worked with before, but just anyway, just representing ourselves, it's always
Yeah.
just like, okay, what am I like, how do I want to come across today? What am I going to wear today?
Yeah.
Like, make sure my hair is clean, and like, how do I want my hair styled today? And like, you
Yeah.
know, like just quickly, like usually I'm much more a person to do, everyone who knows me knows I'm really like, if I'm not having a good hair day, I'm not happy. I'm just like, so I always put a bit of energy into my hair.
Yeah.
But makeup wise, I'm very much less is more on what's quickest. Like, you know,
Yeah.
products like 3-in-1. It's like a bit of, you know, always moisture, a bit of concealer, but just like, you know, a cream, cheek, lip, eye gel, and just a bit of mascara, brush up the brows, and I'm out the door.
Right.
But just like those little things, you know, because often we're all time poor in the mornings.
Yeah.
Especially early in the mornings,
Yes.
when you're like needing to do all that before getting to set, before everyone else, to have
Yes.
everything set up, you know. But I think that, yeah, someone like me in my job, in my profession, I'm just used to thinking of all that stuff constantly. So I'm
Right.
used to it. But a lot of people aren't used to having to even
Yeah.
consider that stuff, especially with all the working from home now.
That's true.
And
Yeah. Well, and you can get into times where you're just at home or not thinking about it, but especially if you're going to be on camera for anything, which
Yes.
so many of us are,
Yeah.
but so many of my people and my audience
yeah.
is in the performing arts and
Yeah.
entertainment in some way. Like honestly, in our, you know, just having that little bit of like pride and
Yeah.
attention and purposefulness with
And
your
purposeful, and I also
intention kind of.
yes, and
Yeah.
I also always say as well, it's like that look good, feel better thing of like,
Yeah.
when you might not, you know, it's like put your best foot forward, like
Yeah.
start as you mean to go on. You might not be feeling great that day. You could have had an argument. You could have had a bad sleep. You could have just be feeling a bit hormonal, or just like not feeling great, but just spending that like, and often for me, it's like when I know I don't feel great, it's like spending that extra time on like just popping some concealer under your eyes so that you can't see the dark circles that you might know that you have because you didn't get enough sleep.
Yeah.
But it's like when you can't see them anymore, it starts to affect your mood in a positive way.
Yeah.
Or even if you're just not feeling well or whatever, it's just I think that that's really important. And it's something that I learned like years ago. I had some health problems through my 20s from like early on. And I was and I'm good now, but that was something that kind of happened like early on in my life. And just that thing of noticing the difference of like, at the time, sometimes I just felt so unwell, but just putting a little bit of pink blusher on my cheeks and a little bit of concealer under my eyes when I just felt tired and just felt like I wasn't feeling great would like bring in the sunshine.
Yeah.
So it's just,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to advocate like needing to wear makeup or any of those things. It's just as simple as that. Just
intentional self-care.
intention. Yes.
Yeah. And then, we see people we know at coffee shops all the time. And, if you're just out and about in your day and you see someone you're going to feel good about it.
Yeah.
And you're going to feel better about yourself.
Yeah. And and I genuinely, I'm not saying I'm not saying, you need to wear mascara. It might not even be the concealer thing, but it's just like, as you said, like I used to, in Australia as well, I used to, teach a lot of one-on-one makeups as well, and sometimes like to all kinds of people, but a lot of like new mothers or a lot of things like that. And it's like often, especially new moms, are so time poor but feel really kind of haggard because all of the energy is going to the child. And it's like, it's just like, and they would always want to know what are some little tips and tricks that I can do really quickly, just as simple as just like, okay, just take that time to like brush your hair, or, just like brush it, put it back. Just even like if you really don't have time, but just like add the extra moisturizer to help your skin glow a bit more so that you feel like outwardly more fresh and glowy.
Yeah.
Just, it doesn't even need to be makeup, but like, as you said, just the intentional giving some self-care to yourself, I think is the most important.
Yeah. Well, and I love that your style is the high-end artistic execution of that inward radiance just being celebrated.
Oh,
it's so beautiful.
Thank you.
So how can people check out your work and see what you're doing?
So, well, of course, I'm on Instagram and it's at Fern Madden Makeup. And my website is fernmaddenmakeup.com.
And I'll have that
so
on the show notes.
It's all very
all right there.
it's all my name and makeup. So
perfect.
Yay.
Well, you are
I'm
so
also
beautiful to talk to.
I was just going to say I'm also represented by JK Artists. So I have an agent here in LA.
Great.
Yep. JK
Great.
Artist, and she's wonderful. She's a boutique agent, and it's really nice because you get a lot of one-on-one care with a boutique agent as well. And it's
Oh, beautiful.
Yes.
I'll have that in the show notes too.
Yay.
Then. Thank you so much, Fern.
Thank you for having me.
To talk to you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Join the community and share your creative challenges on Instagram and Facebook at Creators Cafe by Kika Labs. And also check out my website, kikalabs.com, KIKALABS.com, to sign up for the mailing list so you always know when a new podcast is released, and to check out my coaching and digital courses to help you be a more confident and joyful creator.